Welcome to the Oakley Podcast, Trucking Business Family. My name is Jeremy Kellett. I'm Director of Recruiting here at Oakley Trucking. I'm your host for this podcast. Along beside me, Miss Megan Cummings, who is sitting in as co-host on this episode too. And this episode we've already recorded last week, but this is one of my favorites. And the fact that really it's not a lot about trucking. You know, we didn't just get in depth with it being in trucking. I kind of got side railed because I really like it. He is one of our owner operators, and his name is Brad Page. And he's a retired commercial pilot. He has been flying a plane for 30 years, and now he's an owner operator at Oakley Trucking. He has a fantastic story.
Yeah.
I mean, it was just it was really good. I kept diving off into the pilot stuff and the airplane stuff, and y'all are gonna love some of the stuff. We even got him to talk like a pilot does, yeah. You know, on the intercom and stuff. That's pretty cool. So it's really just another episode of showing you what kind of quality owner operators we have here at Oakley and some of their history. I mean, there's no telling. You know, out of the 900 owner operators we have, there's no telling the history. And we've done just a few of them. I mean, just a few of the owner operators, and they've all got some really good history. So, I mean, this one's really good. He talks about some of the calls, some of the close calls he had, you know, during his flight time. He actually flew a Medevac Learjet early on in his career. So he talks a little bit about that. That was really good. And I'll tell you this, Megan, I haven't told you this, but we recorded this last week, and we recorded it before the crashes that happened in Washington, D.C.
Oh, yeah.
And in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
Well, Brad was coming through. He's here swapping out trucks. And so I got to talk to him yesterday about that. And I wished I'd had it recorded, you know, because he has done that hundreds of times, that approach flying into Washington, D.C. Reagan Airport. And he was talking about exactly what could have happened there and how busy that airport was. And then I thought it was I told him, I said, Brad, I thought of you when I heard this jet go down in Philadelphia, because it was a Medevac.
Oh, yeah, it was.
Learjet.
I saw that.
And I thought of him right when I heard that.
Yeah.
And, of course, he had already been up on it. Him, and I think he said his brother-in-law is a retired pilot, too. So they were talking about all the circumstances. And, I don't know, it was just good to talk to him because he understood. I mean, he's been there. And, and that's a devastating thing that happened. I know we don't talk about news on this thing, but I was talking to him about it, and it was just terrible.
Yeah, it was very awful. I was just saying, I would love to have Brad Page on my next flight with me.
Yeah, wouldn't you, though?
Yeah. You'd be like, so this is what's going on right now. This is normal. This is what that means.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we ask him a lot of those questions.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
You know, I mean, we got some good questions, like who's controlling the air conditioner, Brad? Yes. That's what we want to know.
That was really the main topic of the podcast, actually.
That's what it got to. So, other than that, how about our sponsors?
Well, we have a new sponsor this week. Actually, last week.
Yep.
Central Arkansas Truck and Trailer. They're right down the road. Podcast came out last week. It's a really good watch.
Yeah, if you didn't see it, definitely need to give that a listen.
Also, can't forget about Arrow.
Yep, I talked to Keith.
A1s from day one.
Ain't that the truth?
Yeah, they've just been here through everything. Just great people, too. I mean, we like them because they're a sponsor on the podcast, but we do way more than just a podcast with them.
Yeah, I was talking to Keith this morning on the way to work. You know, he actually called and was talking about how good the Central Arkansas Truck and Trailer podcast was.
Yeah?
Yeah. He was like, man, that was really good. Those seem like really good people. So
where does Keith listen to it?
On
Apple?
His, I don't know.
Probably Apple. Which brings me to my next point.
Good.
Podcasts. Available at 3 o'clock in the morning is when they get uploaded, I think. I always see them whenever I wake up in the morning. I know there's a new one on Wednesdays. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio. Yeah, iHeartRadio. And then there's another website.
Google,
Stitcher. And then Google. And then obviously YouTube, TikTok, Face Talk. U-Buck, whatever.
I don't even know what it is.
Anyways, all of those places.
Share it.
Like it, comment. when you, like, the smallest amount of interaction with a post just makes it go crazy.
Yeah.
TikTok, too. I love TikTok. And our Facebook Reels. Do we have our stuff on Facebook Reels? Those are so funny. Those are so funny.
Yeah.
Annabelle does a great job with those.
So all that stuff she just said. Be great to check us out. The point is, tell everybody about this podcast. We want to get it out there to other truck drivers. It's a great recruiting tool. It's a great retention tool.
Yep.
It's a great communication tool to our owner-operators. That's how it started in the very beginning.
Yep.
When we were doing it. So it's been a great tool. So
this is a good episode, too. Before we get off the topic of that, if you have somebody that's not, that is not a truck driver, isn't married to a driver, doesn't work in the field,
yeah,
we barely talk about trucking. I mean, I know that sounds awful because we're Oakley Trucking Podcast, but, it's not just your run-of-the-mill podcast about trucking,
Right.
So we got a lot of really cool people that work here, and
we do, and finding that out about them is the fun part about it, like this episode with Brad. So why don't, before we get to that, we need to talk about the changes that has happened in the office, particularly the recruiting department and
Breaking
the
news.
permit department.
Can we have one of those
involving
things
Megan?
that go across the screen?
Yeah,
and talk
breaking
about breaking
news.
news. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
Well, Jeremy, do you want to tell them or should I?
So, we have Vicki Chastain, been with us 18 years. Well, she is moving on, and we're all going to dearly miss her in the position she had there in the recruiting department.
Yep.
Did a great job, has pulled me out of a lot of places, binds in the past, when it comes to paperwork and a lot of stuff, DQ files. And she just did a great job, and we're going to thoroughly miss her. But with that, her moving opened up a couple things.
A lot
Wendy,
of things.
So Wendy has moved to her position and taken Vicky's position.
But wait, Jeremy, what does that mean? Who does Wendy's job now?
Right. So that becomes who does Wendy's job now.
And we still don't know.
So we know who's attempting to do Wendy's job. So
Yeah, there's a keyword.
Megan has graciously accepted Wendy's position. And so what does that mean for everybody listening out there, especially our owner-operators? When you have a question for Wendy now, it's a question for Megan.
Unless it's really, really hard. Then we'll just give it to Wendy. She's still training me. Give me a little bit of a grace period.
So, it's worked out great for the company, though. I appreciate you doing it too, Megan, because you can get over there, and we still got Wendy right across the desk from you.
Yeah.
So, and I told Wendy, I said, it's going to be hard for you to get away from Wendy.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you've done
She's
so
been
much.
here as long as Vicky has,
18,
right?
Yeah, probably 18 years,
Yeah.
20 years. And so she knows the ins and outs over there. And all y'all have spoiled me rotten where I don't know the ins and outs like I used to. So
We're going to throw Jeremy in it next week.
And then Valerie started today.
Yes. Yeah. So
Which is who's going to tell us what she's going to do.
She's going to take over my Canada Well, she's going to be I like to call her Megan Jr. I haven't called her that to her face yet. She might not like that, but she seems like a great gal. She'll do all the stuff that I did, Canada mainly, and helping me out. But
See
it's
there?
so weird. Helping me out when I'm on vacation, So a little bit of permit stuff. So basically, like what I did when I first started. So you'll have a couple new contacts.
Be easy on her over there in this training. You and Wendy got to kind of.
I know.
We're all spoiled in here and expect people to know what they're doing, and this is whole different stuff. Yeah, it doesn't work like that.
I was listening to myself earlier, and I was confusing myself, actually. So I hope she's still there whenever we go back downstairs.
Yeah, me too. I did. I went by a while ago and to make sure you don't run her off. She doesn't leave after lunch and doesn't come back. But I don't think so. Valerie seems like a great lady and going to help us a lot in that department. I think she's going to be a plus for us all, for
absolutely.
sure. So you want to finish up? We had, I know we got to get to this episode, but you and Annabelle had put out something on Facebook.
Yeah. You know how I feel about the questions and the comment section.
You like it?
Yeah.
That's your favorite part.
Yes, absolutely. All the really important information really doesn't matter. It's just about the comments for me.
So give us the here, I'll read the question, you read the answers. How's that?
Sounds good.
So the question they put out is, how do you feel about flying when you travel, and which airline is your favorite to fly with? Drop your answer below.
All
what kind of
right.
results do you get from that?
We've got a lot of people actually really don't mind to fly. Aaron McGray says, I like the ones that I can walk onto and walk off of. So anything that stays in the air is good with Aaron. And he says, and if they have beer, those are good ones too. Haven't flown in years, says Terry Smith. He's too busy working. Brian Carpenter says he flies a lot. It's much safer than driving. More fatalities on the interstate every day. And you know what? Anytime you talk to somebody about being scared about flying, that's always what they say. Mm-hmm. I'm like, okay, that doesn't make me feel any better. Rico Lawrence says Delta and JetBlue. I like flying, especially when I have the window seat. Fun fact, when me and Annabelle flew to the truck show last year, I was kind of getting a little spooked. I don't know. Have I ever told you about that?
The anxiety? What?
Yeah, it was sweaty palms. My mouth was dry. It was really awful. Don't ever ask Annabelle what happened because she'll make it sound like I was a big sissy. But anyways, she was like, just look out the window. It'll make you feel better. I looked out the window for maybe 2 seconds and put the curtain down.
Really?
Yeah, and I didn't care if the other people were mad at me.
Was that the first time you'd ever flown?
No, I flew when I was 13. I don't know why that affected me so much differently. Anyways, Danya Talley, they're big goers and doers. She said flying gets us to our destination much faster. Mm-hmm. Gives them more time for fun stuff. And then, I was looking through these comments last night. There's pictures of Ralph May when he flew. Did you see that? Yeah.
Let me see.
Here you go. Everybody has really good opinions about it. So I'm beginning to think maybe I'm in the minority on this one about not being crazy about flying. And I think it's just really all in my head. Paul Lorimer, check this out. I used to fly 1 to 3 times every week for work. Ugh.
There's a lot of people that
God
do
bless
that.
them.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to do it.
I would always fly American. Alaska Air. These sound like fancy airlines. I've never heard of Alaska Air. And then Sandy Sanders. This is my kind of person. None. God gave me feet, not wings. Have never been on an airplane and don't plan to. You know what, Sandy? That's fine.
Yep.
If you can get there by car or by foot, more power to you. Anyways.
Good comments, good interaction with our listeners.
Yes.
Appreciate you doing that. That's always a fun little segment to put in there. So everybody's got different answers. Isn't it funny to see what they do? So. Mm-hmm. Hey, we appreciate all our listeners out there for sure. And I really want you to stay tuned into this episode. I thought it was really great. And if you got questions or comments, please send them to us. You can email them to us. You can do it on YouTube or wherever you're at and let us know. We'll be glad to get back with you. But hope you enjoy this episode with Brad Page. Thanks.
Hey, I'm David Dunn with Central Arkansas Truck and Trailer. Arkansas's highest rated, locally owned, and family operated heavy and medium duty diesel repair and service. Certified technicians with the latest computer diagnostics to repair everything from Fords to Freightliners. Specializing in suspensions, transmissions, brakes, after-treatment systems, and complete engine rebuilds. Tired of paying high dealership prices with long wait times? Let Central Arkansas Truck and Trailer get your truck back on the road where it belongs.
First of all, Brad Page, Oakley owner-operator, I appreciate you sitting down with us today.
Yeah, absolutely.
I remember, you might not think I remember this, but I remember when you came through orientation, which was not long ago, actually, back in November maybe.
I was in November 5th orientation, yeah.
And you mentioned, hey, I want to do a podcast one of these days with you. And I thought, you know what, I'll remember that. We're going to write his name down. we're going to see what.
We got some raw meat here.
Yeah. Right. So to get our audience started, give me a little bit of who Brad Page is.
Well, I'm the old guy.
Okay.
I'm 71. Everybody followed me around in orientation like I was about to drop dead. So.
Worried about you.
Yeah, Randolph had the paramedic standing by. But anyway, I started, had my CDL when I was 18 years old, believe it or not, before they required the 21 on that. So got my Class B CDL when I was 18, started school bus driving. And I can't believe they trusted me to take
Right.
their children at 18 years someplace. But did that for a few years, was going to college, and my brother-in-law he was hauling garbage and got me my Class A. And at the ripe old age of 21, I was hauling garbage out of San Francisco down to the landfill. And that wasn't good enough. Then I had to go to the sewage plant and pick up loads of processed sewage.
Oh, no.
Ew. It just clicked for me.
Oh, yeah, yeah. So we take that down to the landfill, and we drop it behind the tippers where they drop the garbage on top of they call it sludge, so it could slide easier. And somehow they never figured out that garbage and that sludge, when it would decompose, turns into methane gas. And when they turned that into an amphitheater, and somebody was snuffing out a cigarette in the grass, and it took off.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, good.
Yeah. So anyway, that's kind of an aside. How do we get
Yeah,
over there? Right?
How we get there. Where are you from?
I grew up in the suburbs of San Francisco,
Okay.
10 miles from where Mr. Tom Brady came from. So,
You live there now?
Nope. Got smart, moved out of there as quick as I could. Took a job in the airline business, and lived in Arizona for 27 years.
Oh, really?
And
And now you currently live in
I live in Blue Ridge, Georgia.
Georgia.
So,
You've been all
Family?
over.
Got a family?
yep, got 2 boys. Been married to my lovely bride for 40 years,
Awesome.
and we have 2 grandbabies and a 3rd one on the way.
Congratulations.
So anyway, got into CDL driving primarily to pay for college, and it paid for flight school. And that's how I worked my way through college and flight school, was driving trucks. Never gets out of your system. So
So the traveling thing is a big deal, obviously.
if I'm not rolling, I'm not happy. So
Wow.
I've got to keep moving. So me and my wife gets the joke on that one. So plus, all the time we've been married, I've been traveling, and if I'm around all day long, it doesn't do much for her. So
Gets tired real quick.
well, the highlight of her day is not what we each had for lunch. So
Yeah. Well, I want to spend a little bit of time, if you don't care, on this transition from you were driving a truck out in California, and you decided to go to college.
Yeah.
And then at some point you decided to be an airline pilot.
Yeah, thought flying would be a pretty cool job because that's where all the money and the women were. So,
Okay.
so I jumped into that. I finished up all my flight training out in California. Started as a flight instructor. It's all about building hours when you're doing that. So I'm flight instructing, and I'm still driving truck
Oh, at the same
Wow.
time?
at the same time. Yeah. So in fact, my students thought it was pretty funny because I'd roll up in my semi every now and then and park it out in the parking lot and run into. It's like, all right, ready? So I did that for a few years till I got my time built up and jumped into a Medevac job, flying Medevac, and that's actually where I met my.
Explain that.
It's anybody sick, car accident, premature babies, we would fly out, pick them up, and bring them back into large medical centers. So we contracted with Stanford University and UC San Francisco, and we moved a lot of premature babies, which was pretty cool. But then we also expanded and started moving overseas, and we started repatriating patients that were injured or sick from overseas back into the
Holy
United
moly.
States. And in fact, that's where I met my wife. She was a flight nurse with this company, and we met on a flight. First flight was just a short one, ran up in Northern California, brought a patient back down. But the next one, we went to Ecuador, picked up a patient in Ecuador, and brought him all the way back up to San Francisco. So
Is this a big commercial plane?
it was a Learjet, so it was a
Learjet.
corporate jet. So, but it was a flying intensive care unit. It was pretty cool.
I bet it was.
So-
How did you
Wow.
get into that?
They were based across the field from where I was teaching, and just got to know the folks, and they said, well, we like you, so when you get up a certain amount of hours, come on over and we'll get you set up and trained, and off you go. So,
Can you explain that a little bit? Just because I'm interested in this pilot stuff. I mean, you have to have a bunch of hours. That's basically to become certified.
yeah. The first goal is to get to 1,500 hours total time. So that's what you do as a flight instructor. You're just teaching other students, and all that time I'm over in the seat with them thrashing away. I'm logging that as pilot and command time.
Okay.
So you have to. So you were a flight instructor before you were finished with your. Really?
Yeah. It's inverse. The Air Force does the same thing too. They'll take a new guy out of pilot training in the Air Force.
Mm-hmm.
They'll toss them into what they call primary flight.
Wow.
Because you're going to teach primary flight. If you just came out of it, you know how to teach primary flight.
Oh, I didn't think of it like that.
So-
Yeah.
So you would just, you didn't have a plane.
No.
You just have to rent one.
Yeah, I'd rented one.
Gotcha.
Yeah. The plane that right now rents for $150 an hour, I was renting it for $13 an hour back in the day.
Really?
Wow.
A little different gig. So.
But driving a truck helped pay for that.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, out in grew up in the Bay Area out there in California. You got to belong to a union, so I was a proud card-carrying Teamster.
Okay.
Wow.
And we in fact I rode through one Teamster strike out there, which was educational. So our company signed what they call a Me Too, which kept us moving. We could keep driving. We had to put a big yellow sticker in our windshield so the Teamsters wouldn't break our windshields.
Wow.
What year was that, Brad?
That was that would have been 1975. So, and I learned that when the Teamsters go on strike, the first thing they do is go to the liquor store. And then they go to the brickyard because you need bricks and you need liquor. So you got to.
They're fixing to bust somebody.
Oh yeah, man! They would bust up windshields, and it was interesting. I was just a young kid. It was pretty, eye opening.
I bet it was.
So you kind of sit there and go, this is interesting.
Do I want to be part of this or not?
Oh yeah, man. You watch this stuff going. They take this serious, don't they? So I kept building up my time. Got to know these folks on the medevac business. Jumped over there, did that for a few years. Built up enough what we call turbine time, which you need jets and turboprops, and slid into a job with Henson Airlines, which was owned by Piedmont, the old Piedmont. I don't know if anybody remembers Piedmont, North Carolina. Became U.S. Air, which became part of American later on. But went to work with them. That brought me out to the East Coast into Florence, South Carolina.
And what was that job?
Just flying 34 passenger airlines, call them commuters.
Okay.
So we would feed the main hubs. We'd go into the smaller cities, pick up passengers there, bring them into the main hubs, drop them off, and man, you want to log a bunch of time because you were just bam, bam, bam all day long. So did that, built up enough time there, and got my first real airline job. And so I jumped off with a company called America West Airlines. That brought me back into Phoenix, and we parked it.
Wow.
So that's the company you stayed with for.
Well, I sat with them for 5 years, and then went into bankruptcy. And when you have new babies, bankruptcy and the wife don't really mix well together. So all my neighbors flew for Southwest Airlines, and they flew the 737. I was flying the 737 already to America West, and they said, "Man, we'll walk your application in for you, buddy." So I was still in the day when you hand wrote the application. So wrote out the application, gave it to them. They took it right into Dallas for me, and the rest is history. Spent 26 years at Southwest Airlines after that.
Holy moly.
So
Does it ever get like boring? Because you have to. I don't guess you get off the plane after you land.
No, depends on where you are. Southwest initially it was. we were a little cowtown airline when we started. There was 600. I was number 621 on the seniority list. I was the the last pilot on the seniority list in January of '93. So that's 621 pilots, and today they have almost 12,000 pilots on the seniority
Holy
list.
moly.
Wow.
So it exploded. I mean, they just, Herb Kelleher ran the airline, great guy, real people person, really interesting guy. And he had a business plan and expanded that airline, and couldn't believe we went from flying from Lubbock and Amarillo and all those real hot spots. And before I retired, we were actually going to Honolulu and Jamaica and down into the Caribbean, having a great time, just living the dream, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. So what all places did you go? I mean, just
Man, all over the
all
place.
over
Yeah. You bid your schedule every month. They publish what they call lines of flying.
okay.
So I would look for max pay and max time off and jump into those and let the cards kind of fall. A lot of guys thought, well, I just like warm places, and so they'd bid where they're going to, but
I see.
I'm a greedy capitalistic pig, so
you want the maximum.
I'm
amount.
going for money.
Yeah.
So it put me into Calgary, Canada, so it'd be in the middle of winter. So
Wow.
it happens.
So let me pick at this commercial airline stuff
Yeah.
a little bit more. I mean, that's a huge responsibility.
It is. Yeah.
It's a huge task to get there to that point.
Yeah.
A lot of flying and stuff. What was probably the toughest thing being an airline pilot? What's the biggest challenge?
Well, weather.
Yeah.
Just like in the trucking business, it's weather. So,
You're always going around it, or
you're always in it,
something.
around it. We got at Southwest, they got these pretty cool landing systems called heads-up displays, and to help, we can land in very, very low visibility. And it took normally what we call a Class 1 instrument approach. We'd have to have the runway at 200 feet with a half-mile visibility. This heads-up display took us down to 50 feet
oh my goodness.
and eighth of a mile visibility. And
Did that not just scare you to death? When
you volunteer for the mission, and you get to do what you're trained to do, and it actually kind of, wow, this is going to be kind of fun. We're going down there.
You have to be a little bit of an adrenaline junkie.
Oh, it's yeah.
Well, and especially with the med flight, that's where you started.
Yeah.
So that's got to be that has to be something that you chased to want to do that in the first place.
Yeah. You got to enjoy the challenge of operating a pretty complex piece of machinery in a very dynamic environment.
Mm-hmm.
I've been on those flights where you can't see out the window.
I don't like that.
And I'm thinking, there's no way this guy can see the runway.
Yeah.
I mean, what's he doing up there?
Yeah.
We're just going into this, hoping for the best.
We're going through our portfolio.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like, dude, have you got this 401k yet?
Yeah. I'm back there stressing out on it.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting, too, because at 50 feet, what people don't realize, an airplane actually, when you're landing a commercial jet, your nose up 4 degrees. And the landing gear is pretty far behind you. So where I'm getting the 50-foot reading, the landing gear is actually 37 feet.
Ugh.
So you're about ready to touch that runway.
You have some close calls?
Oh, yeah, everybody does. So, but, yeah.
Well, tell me one of them.
You're not doing it anymore. You can tell us.
Yeah, I can't give away too many state secrets. But,
Yeah.
But, no, we've shut down engines in previous, we were going into Los Angeles one time, and this was an older 737, and there's a particular light at the time was called the start valve open light. And in the older model airplane, if that light came on, you had to shut down the motor because if you didn't, the starter motor is going to overspeed and shrapnel the inside of the engine. So we get the light. Like we kind of look at each other and, oh man. So we have a whole bunch of memory items. Like I could sit here and do it from rote right now if you wanted me to, but I won't bore you with that part. But anyway, we went ahead and caged the motor, ran the whole checklist, and landed with a whole bunch of equipment waiting for us at Los Angeles International, and passengers' eyes are about this big.
I bet.
'Cause when you roll, they come out to the end of the runway, and if you declared an emergency, they're going to follow you onto the runway. So we have.
So you had to declare emergency.
Oh yeah, we declared an
landing.
emergency. Yeah, you shut a motor down, you better declare an emergency. Otherwise, it'll be a lot of paperwork and a couple of trips to the chief pilot's office to do a rug dance.
Did you get on the intercom and tell them what you were doing?
Yeah, you get your best captain voice. And,
Oh yeah, that's what I was gonna
Yeah.
ask about, Brad. So when you're on a plane and it sounds like they're talking through like a cotton ball.
yeah,
What's the deal with that?
just part of being the cool voice.
Okay. So that's just a part of it.
We always joke that you start out every PA starts with,
Yeah.
It does.
yeah, it does. This is your captain speaking. If you look out the right side, you may see some smoke.
Don't be alarmed.
Yeah,
So
don't
funny.
be alarmed. We have equipment standing by.
Oh,
Wow.
I'm in a
That is so
panic
cool.
back there.
Yeah, I mean, the good news is the modern day
Yeah.
aviation is just, there's so many redundant systems.
So you're saying like the odds of something like catastrophic happening are pretty low.
Pretty low.
Okay,
Yeah.
that makes me feel better.
Yeah. So,
What about, here's something that I've always wondered. So, my uncle always used to tell me if they're small planes, you can feel everything on it. And that little dip you feel in your stomach, like when you're going down a hill really fast or in a roller coaster or whatever.
Yeah.
I don't remember feeling that the first time I flew, but when I was on a smaller plane, that's all, I felt everything.
a smaller plane, you're flying in what we call the lower part of the atmosphere, and there's a lot more bumps because you're closer to the ground. You get the heat and cool, air rises and falls, and that makes bumps for you, and then the wind gets involved in it.
Yeah.
So generally above 10,000 feet, things smooth out a little bit until we start getting up into the higher altitudes where we start playing with jet streams, and jet streams 130, 140 mile an hour winds, and you don't realize, but weather's three-dimensional. So you'll go up through one layer, go smooth. Next layer, you can hit bumps. So whenever you go up into the jet stream, there's always a bunch of bumps when you go in there. But it's cool, though, is when you go, like when you're eastbound, you hit the bumps, and you go, I'm in the jet stream, and you watch your ground speed, and all of a sudden we are hauling freight.
Wow.
Because you're getting pushed 120 mile an hour push. So we would run true airspeed at about 400 and, let's say 500 miles an hour. If you get 100 knot tailwind, you're doing 600 miles an hour over the ground. So eastbound is pretty cool
You're
because you're
rolling.
going to get
That
there
is
quick.
scary. And you like that?
Oh, yeah,
That
it's
doesn't
awesome.
freak you out?
No. It's,
Well, you're just,
You're probably part meteorologist too, aren't you?
I've been through so many meteorology courses.
Have you?
Yeah. My favorite, we actually hired a professor of meteorology from University of Colorado to come down and teach, because we'd go through school. Every 6 months we're back in school for current training. And this guy's name was Professor John Fogg. Perfect name for meteorology.
John Fogg,
And
yeah.
This guy, he was like the absent-minded professor. I mean, it was almost like, dude, your fly's open, because he didn't care, man.
He was in a fog.
He was in the fog, and he was so much fun. I learned so much from him. I mean, that's pretty interesting. So, then as the airline grew, we had to get more into international weather patterns and stuff like that. So it was kind of
That's
interesting.
insane.
All right, one more question before we get off the. See how we
Okay.
go down a rabbit hole in
Yeah.
this pilot stuff?
yeah.
But I love it.
Forget about Oakley.
I
Let's talk
love
about
it.
Brad.
I love it. Who controls the air conditioning on the plane?
Well, as the captain, I would oversee what the worthless first officer, because obviously he's worthless. He's in the right seat, right? So
Oh, so the head man's in the left seat.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
gotcha. That
Yeah.
helps.
What's
Yeah.
the use for the right seat, though? In case something happens to the pilot?
Yeah, well, there's lots of different stories about why he's over there,
Oh,
or
got
she's
it.
over there. But no, it's a busy piece of equipment. It's nice to have two people in there, and one flies, and the other guy monitors, does the radios, takes care of all the different sundries. But we fly every other leg. We just
Okay.
switch out. So, but they all stay in the right seat. I stay in the left seat. But anyway, the first officer is over there. He's in command of the environmental control.
The AC.
Yeah, yeah.
Interesting.
So,
He probably gets lots of suggestions.
well, you got to remember that every molecule that you're breathing inside that airplane went through the engine and comes back through what we call a pneumatic air cycle machine. We call them packs. And they compress the air, and when you compress the air, it heats and then expands and it cools. And when it would go through the pack, it compress it real hard, then expand it, and that's the cool air you're supposed to get in the back. So
That's why it's not very cool when you're sitting still.
when you're sitting still on the ground is a challenge.
Very
'Cause-
much so.
Yeah, yeah. So we have an auxiliary power unit on the airplane. That's another small jet engine, and that's part of the environment.
Yeah, they need to fix that. There needs to be some cool AC blowing out that
You know,
thing. when
I
you-
tell you, the old airplanes we had, we could literally, like, we'd be stopped in Texas somewhere. It's nice and humid, and you see that fog coming down out of the ceiling while you're sitting on the ground. That air conditioning is working good.
Yeah.
So people come, are we on fire? I said, no, but enjoy the cool while you got it.
I got on a small plane years ago coming back from Baton Rouge. I went down to our reserve terminal, and I don't know how I booked this flight, but I mean, it was like there was only like 8 or 10 of us on there.
Oh,
And it
God.
wasn't
Let
a-
me off.
It wasn't a jet. And I mean, it was so hot in that plane. I thought I was about to have it come apart.
Yeah.
I mean, it was so hot in there when you get on it, just baking out there on the runway.
Yeah.
And then you go get in it, and then you're like,
It's even worse.
come on, we need to get some air moving. Let's get
Yeah.
in this plane and go. But
Yeah.
that was one miserable, rough,
Yeah.
hot
Well, the small
ride.
planes like that, you don't get any, till you start the motors, you're not going to get any air conditioning going on unless they bring a big old yellow hose out and
Yeah.
shove it in
Right,
the door of
right.
the plane.
Did
So-
you know? All right, I'm getting off of the pilot here just a second. Did you know Dennis Oakley's a pilot?
I did not.
Yep.
Interesting.
He is. Owns the company, and he flies. I've been in with him.
Yeah.
We have a company plane, and we've been in we've gone to a few funerals and business trips and stuff like that. But yeah, he can fly.
Said, that's interesting. I did not know that.
Yep. I was in with him one time. We went to it was just North Texas. We went down there. I can't remember if it was Texarkana or something. And he's up there, but he's got his, what do you call the guy?
Your
He's got his
first
right-hand
officer.
man.
Yeah.
First officer.
Yeah.
Which is actually the pilot, I think.
Yeah.
But Dennis we're coming in, and the wind is just howling. I mean, it was windy that day, and we were starting to land down there in North Texas or Texarkana somewhere, and we were literally sideways
It's called a
like
crab.
this.
Yeah.
Coming to the runway, and when you get real close, you're like, this is not going to go well. And I mean, as soon as he got right down to the runway, he just turned right at the last
Kick
second
it off.
and
Dip the wing into
Yeah.
the wind and set the.
shook
one
me up a
wheel
little
down
bit,
first.
but he did a good job. He acted like it was nothing.
Yeah. I landed in Islip, New York one night. Yeah, man, it was snowing and blowing. I mean, it was ugly. And you got to get what they call it a MEW reading. We joke, they send a guy out there in golf shoes and a golf cart and run his feet across the runway to give you a friction reading. So we get the MEW reading. It's good. But, man, I didn't pick up the runway till about 100 feet. And I had 40 mile an hour winds off the left side. I'm doing that coming in sideways. And what you don't realize is, we're turned this way. For me to see the runway, I'm looking out the right window. To see
Oh
that
my
thing.
gosh.
You know, and so you're coming over, kind of looking at it, and you kick it out and land. And it was a pretty good adrenaline rush.
Wow.
I remember I landed and told the first officer, I'm going to take a walk.
That did me in.
Yeah, just, like my brother-in-law is a Navy pilot, said, you get that rush when you land on an aircraft carrier, so.
Oh, I bet.
So, I mean,
So your brother's a pilot, too.
my brother-in-law.
Brother-in-law.
Yeah, he's retired Delta guy. He went through the Navy and came up through Delta. So we had that family rivalry.
Got something
Oh,
in common
yeah.
there, a little rivalry.
Oh,
I
yeah.
like it. Yeah, that's good.
At Aero Truck Sales in Springfield, Missouri, they take the hassle out of buying and selling semi-trucks. No matter the manufacturer, the style of cab, or the type of engine under the hood, they can make you a fair offer on your semi-truck with no games or gimmicks. They carry trucks from all the major manufacturers in the trucking industry and perform a thorough inspection of every truck on their lot to ensure safety and quality and give you confidence that you're getting a reliable truck that will last you for years at a price that you can afford. Aero has partnered with Oakley Trucking and the Oakley Podcast for years and are proud to provide our owner-operators with trucks that meet Oakley's qualifications and each owner-operator's specific needs. So whether you're a first-time owner-operator or just looking for a change of scenery, give Keith Wilson a call at 573-216-6047 and let them know you heard it here on the Oakley Podcast.
Let's get back to trucking.
All right.
How in the world did you get back to trucking? You was a commercial pilot for how many years?
I flew, 33 years as an airline pilot. And it never gets out of your blood. So I kind of scratched that itch a little bit. I bought this big old RV that was a Columbia Freightliner. I mean, it was a Class A truck. And out in Arizona, you go out to the sand dunes every winter. You take side-by-sides out there. And so you don't want to show up out there unless you got yourself a big old truck.
Oh.
So we'd show up with all our big old trucks, and we're thinking we're somebody. And then the Unser brothers would show up, the racing Unsers from Indianapolis.
Yeah. I've heard that name.
Yeah. Well, they do a lot of Class 10 trophy trucks, which are $3 million race trucks.
Holy cow.
And, so they'd pull up with a bunch of semis, beautiful trucks, start pulling their trophy trucks out, and we're kind of going, we're nothing. So that just kind of kept the blood going. And as I got...
So you had kept your CDL the whole time?
We moved around so much, I actually let the CDL expire because back then you had to take a test every time you moved. You had to go back to the state. So if I said, I give up. So you can run an RV without a CDL. So I did that. And so I'm getting closer towards the retirement side. I'm thinking, I don't want to sit around very much. And so I bought some FedEx ground routes. And I became boss man. And I had a bunch of local delivery vans, and I had line haul. And so that put me right back into it.
Yeah.
So went back, took the quickie 2-week CDL course. And it's funny because I walk in with all these newbies.
Right.
So we get in the truck. Instructor climbs in the seat with me, and it's a 10-speed. And Reed's kind of, okay, we can go. So it's like, all right. I start running the gears. He looks at me and goes, you've done this before, haven't you? I said, yeah, I have. So anyway, that got me back into it. And
how old were you at that time?
Pre-retirement, so I was about 62, 63, somewhere in there.
Isn't that so funny? Most people, when they reach that age, they're like, oh, man, put in my years. I'm ready to go fishing, work at a bait shop. Brad's like, I'm getting my CDL and I'm going to start working.
Yeah,
that's how
gotta go do something.
Some people relax like that, though.
Yeah,
you know?
Yeah. Oh, I've got a lot of friends that do that. I mean, I suck at golf, so.
But trucking was the only choice.
Yeah.
It's important to do something you're good at.
Yeah. First off, there's no challenge, right? It's just a stationary ball laying on the ground.
Yeah.
What's
Right.
the big deal here? Right? But
We're going to get all kinds of hate, man.
I could never get that thing further than not off the ground for some reason. So anyway, and I also, prior to that, we had a consulting company. I actually did some pretty interesting work with Boeing consulting.
Oh, really?
Yeah. With in the heavy outside cargo market. It's really interesting segment.
That was your post-retirement plan to do a little consulting?
Actually, I was still right in the heat of the airline business then. I mean, I was in my 50s, and we were doing that. And we were trying to look at the Russians. We had to break up the Soviet Union. The Putin literally gave 12 airplanes to a buddy of his, and they were AN-124s, which is the equivalent in our Air Force is the C5, and it's large enough to take 6 40-foot trailers inside the airplane. And so they established a market with free airplanes and lots of fuel, because these things just suck fuel like you wouldn't believe. And they established a whole business hauling heavy outsized cargo. And 12 airplanes were creating $1 billion in annual revenue, where in the regular airline business, you need about 35 airplanes to do that. And these guys, they were just racking it in.
What were they doing?
They were moving cargo for, they were hauling rockets.
Top secret. G-14
There's
classified.
There's a lot of stuff. They'd have to kill you if they told you what the load was. But I know they actually they were hauling loads for the United States Air Force, because the Air Force does not have enough lift when they mobilize. So when Desert Storm started, there's a whole bunch of stuff had to get out to the sandbox. Well, they were flying Russian airplanes into Fort Bliss, Texas, and El Paso, loading Patriot missile systems on board. And they'd push these missiles in there. All right, boys, we're loaded. You can go. And there's 34 Russians on this airplane. They'd close the doors. For 14 hours, they had our Patriot missile system all to themselves.
Oh, my
What
God.
could possibly go wrong? So I guarantee there's 4 engineers back there figuring this thing out. So, so we were trying to get a U.S. equivalent to that started, and the Russians were we couldn't compete price-wise with, they got the airplanes for free. But karma. When Putin invaded Ukraine, all those airplanes got parked. That whole business is done.
Really?
Yeah. So it's interesting.
Yeah.
Mr. Oakley.
And you were consulting in some of that?
Yeah, we're consulting that because, I know all about heavy loads, how to put it on the truck, and so I got sucked in because of my logistics background into this thing, and they kind of liked the idea that I knew what a removable gooseneck was, a flat boy split deck, all that kind of stuff. So we actually got to go pitch this thing on Wall Street, which was pretty cool. So we'd go to investment banks, and we'd stay at the Harvard Club because one of our business partners was a Harvard graduate. So,
Holy moly, Brad!
So we're all sitting around wearing $1,000 suits and trying to impress each other.
Thought you were somebody.
I thought I was somebody. And I'm just kind of going, man, I'm just along for the ride here. This is pretty cool.
Yeah.
But we pitched on Wall Street with that. We actually did a $60 million raise, and then just couldn't get it. It was just Boeing couldn't figure out how they wanted to do it, and so we just finally turned through the towel in. But that market is still there.
Right.
It's ripe to be picked at.
Jeremy, isn't it weird that we have people with these kinds of stories that pull an Oakley trailer?
It's amazing. I it never stops to amaze me what kind of owner-operators we have out there. Oakley owner-operators. It just makes you want to dive into the next guy that walks in the building.
Yeah. I know you're keeping something from me. What is it?
What is your history? So, it's fantastic.
Well, bottom line is, when I was in 4th grade, my 4th grade teacher told me I would never earn a living staring out the window. I was like, watch this, Mrs. Myers.
Showed her, didn't you? And you remembered her name. That's my favorite.
Yeah.
If you're watching Mrs. Myers.
That's great.
Wow.
So I'm back staring out the windshield again because I know I'll see Mrs. Myers eventually when the Lord pulls us in. So.
Well, let's talk about that transition to Oakley.
Okay.
How in the world did you end up here?
Well, I saw lots of Oakley trailers over the years, talking to the guys out here, and nobody had a bad thing to say about this company. So I had to get my 2 years over the road experience in, so I went to work for a Amazon freight partner, hauling Amazon, which that was interesting. Okay. You never talk to anybody. It's all technology.
Yeah.
It's pretty wild. You just drive up to the sort center, and there's a screen pops up, tells you where you drop, where you pick. The boom opens up, and you go. It's every now and then you'd get a voice from a third world country somewhere. The old, hello, my name is Floyd. One time I actually heard the chickens in the background.
Wow.
Working from home today, are we?
Yeah.
So anyway, I knew I wanted to haul for somebody, and I finally focused on Oakley just because I knew it was a good haul. And I started plotting, okay, you need 2 years to do this. Started watching the podcast. That's how when you walked in, I said, oh, podcast. So anyway, Jimmy Road Life.
Yeah.
Yeah. So started talking to him. He made $5,200 off of me.
Good for him.
So he turned me over to Kent. Started talking to Kent. I still had 6 months to go, and Kent, that boy did not let go of me.
Yeah.
I wouldn't talk to him. He'd call me up. Hey, how you doing? Still building that time out there? Yes, I am. I'll let you know. I mean, right at the 2-year hack, he's on the phone.
He knows he's got a good one.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
So that's, I mean, this company is really interesting. I really have to say I like this company a lot because there's just not a bunch of trucks running around out there. There's a whole lot of stuff goes on that you don't see that this company does. And, what's going on that river out there fascinates me to no end.
Yeah.
So I've become a student of the whole Mississippi Valley, the Ohio Valley. So did you know the Ohio River puts more water into the Mississippi than any of the other rivers?
Did not.
That'll win you beer in the bar.
Yeah. Good.
Wow.
Yeah, it is interesting for sure.
Yeah, it really is.
So you decided to come over, and what are you doing? Are you pulling a dump trailer?
I'm a hopper.
Hopper bottom?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So
All right. And you started November,
November 5th.
which is probably one of the toughest times to start with the holidays.
It's like pushing a rope.
Yeah. Getting through here.
I mean, you get your first settlements, go, man, we're just killing it out here. And the next one is, I paid my bills, dude.
Right. So you made it through some holiday time. Now you first of the year. You feel good about being an owner operator.
Yeah. It's really cool. What I really like about this job is nobody's blowing smoke up your six around here.
Yeah.
I mean, it's Lawson's my dispatcher out there. I get to know Lawson pretty well. It's like first thing in the morning, it's Lawson. By 1 o'clock, hey, dude, how you doing, man?
Yeah. Takes us a little while to get her on.
Man, this Army gets going early.
Yeah.
This is the first time I spent the night here, and it was pretty funny to I rolled out of my truck at 5:30, kind of looked around, there's people stirring already. By 6:30, man, get out of the way.
Yeah.
Because this place is rocking.
Yeah.
But it's nobody better, for lack of a better term, nobody lies to you around here. There's no BS. Straightforward.
No need to. It's all going to come out. I mean,
Yeah.
you're going to find out.
Yeah.
And if it's not from us, it'll be from somebody on the road, another driver, or,
Yeah. So, and it's interesting, too, because just having Oakley on the side of your truck, people come up and talk to you. They want to know about the haul, things like that. So, when I was in the FedEx business, one of my line haul drivers, he broke out on his own for a little while, and he decided he wanted to be home a little bit more. This guy, he was a pretty cool guy. He's a Marine, and he had a little bit of PTSD going on. Pretty fun to watch. Anyway, hadn't talked to him for a while, and so I called him up the other day, just, dude, how you doing? So we started talking, and he lives over by Scottsboro, Alabama. And I said, yeah, I'm hauling for Oakley. He goes, man, I see you guys all over the place out there, especially, up that 72 corridor. We're up and down there quite a bit. So, if you're in the trucking business, people know about us.
Yeah. Yeah, we're pretty fortunate to have a good reputation.
Yeah.
And we try. I don't know, people know this, but we try so hard to have that good reputation, keep our standards, throughout all these years, because it pays off in the end.
Yeah. Yeah.
When you get that reputation, people understand what you're doing and what your goal is and what your purpose is, and it pays off, then you start attracting
Yeah.
good people like Brad. I mean, and that's what you're wanting, to set those standards early as a company and keep them all those years, and then all of a sudden you got Brad looking at you. Mm-hmm. Hey, I want to go over there, and that.
Well, and the drivers play a big part in that too.
Huge, huge.
Because you guys are a lot of the times the first point of contact on the road.
Yep.
So you guys help us keep the standard good.
Plus with the customers too.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the thing you have to remind yourself when I'm at Shark up in Livonia picking up glass. Kind of looking around going, you guys ever get a broom? Or
Yeah.
maybe move this
It's
pile
everywhere.
over a little bit so us Oakley guys can get up this big old ramp up inside.
There you go.
Yeah, but,
So you learned a lot first couple months.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I'm still learning.
Right.
Still learning. So, it's always interesting seeing, this end of the food chain, literally.
Yeah.
So that's always kind of interesting.
On the front end.
One thing I know, I am not going to ever haul chickens.
Yeah.
That just isn't going to work. But
Good.
I don't mind dropping that stuff off in the back, the chickens, because chickens love to eat. I know that.
Yeah.
So, I'm pulling chicken feed into those folks all the time. And whoever knew you needed crushed limestone to put into chicken feed to help those chickens digest.
It's something all the time you just learn out there what all. And I mean, we can't piece it together. We just know we haul it.
Yeah.
Most of it don't even know what it's for. What
Yeah.
it goes to is, no, we haul it. So haul's much different material.
Yeah.
Any other questions? I know we've gone a long time on this, but it's been such an interesting conversation.
It's been fun.
And I just enjoy showing, other sides of our owner-operators and give our listeners Luigi, Brad. We have so many of them out there that you just want to, like I said earlier, you want to take the next guy coming in and, hey, sit down, and we want to talk. We want to quiz you too. So
That's always interesting too in the trucking business, because the general perception of the public looking at a truck driver, what a bunch of morons. You're just a truck driver.
Yeah.
And probably one of the coolest guys I ever. Because we parked out in the middle of nowhere one night in this little tiny truck stop, and this prime flatbed guy parks next to me, and I'm out thumping my tires, and he's checking his load. We start talking. This boy's got an MBA out of Ohio State, and he's got a PhD in theology.
Oh my gosh.
And so we wound up having a pretty long, involved conversation, and he said, I just love this I love doing this, and that's why I'm here.
It's so common. It's always a love. It's like people start out doing it and then do something else, come back to it down the line. It's just, we see it all the time.
It gets in your blood.
Yeah.
It doesn't go away. My kids give me a bad time about it now. So, my younger son, he designs jet engines for Pratt & Whitney. So he's the geek. But my older son worked with me on the FedEx side. He was in the Coast Guard and was a diesel mechanic. So he worked on all my trucks for me. And so part of I love spinning wrenches. So that transferred to my sons. And so anyway, my younger one's designing jet engines. He's having a great time. But my older son is part of a diesel drag racing team.
Oh, really?
So it's pretty fun to see that going on.
I bet it is.
So
you get to go to some of them?
Yeah, we get to go to some of them. They have one engine they built with triple turbos on the thing. It's wild to look at this stuff.
I bet.
So it's pretty fun to watch this kid you used to empty his diapers, and now he's actually doing something pretty cool.
Yeah. It is. It is. It is good to watch them grow up and become
absolutely.
something.
Yeah.
Any words of wisdom before we go?
Give it to it before you do that. You should do it like if you were flying a plane. You should give it to us in your pilot's voice. Yeah.
Well, along those lines, just one last quick story.
All right.
My younger son was going to Arizona State University. That's where he got his engineering degree, and so he's living in Phoenix. And we were out in Georgia by then, and So he's coming out to Atlanta to spend Thanksgiving with us. And we booked the flight on a Southwest flight, and turns out it was my flight. I did not know it. And
What do you mean it was your flight?
I was flying
that you used to do?
I was flying that flight.
Oh, you were still flying.
Yeah, I was still
got
flying.
you.
So I'm going to fly that flight. And I'm going through looking at it going, man, I call up my son and said, dude, is this you on this flight? He goes, yeah, that's my flight. I said, all right, well, I'll see you. And so, you know, I mean, my boys grew up with me flying, so
Right.
they know Dad's a captain. So my son's sitting in the back. I got to do the PA. And next thing I know, I'm on Instagram.
Oh, did it go viral?
I don't know if it ever went viral, but my son could not believe that his dad was making a PA. It's like, dude, you're almost 21. you know, since you've been born, Dad's been doing this, and he was just shocked to hear his old man's.
That's pretty good.
So anyway, it's still kind of a family joke.
Did you do a shout out to him or anything? Or
Shout out to both my boys and my lovely bride, Corey and Michael.
I meant, did you do it on that plane, on that flight? When you,
Oh yeah,
you
yeah,
said
I
something
did
directly.
Yeah, you know, that brings up a whole bunch of other stuff. They had to teach us to be politically correct.
Oh,
Because
man.
we used to have some pretty fun stuff back there. But
Yeah.
we can't do that anymore.
Aw.
So
Oh, gosh.
you know, maybe that'll
Brad.
change now with the new administration. So
Save some of it, Brad, for next time, because we got to have you
Part
back.
2, yeah.
I'll
We
come
got to
back.
have you back.
That's fun.
Get you a good, get some seasons in here at Oakley.
Yeah.
And then you can come back, because I would like to spend a little more time next time on making that step, becoming an owner-operator, coming to Oakley, hauling bulk material, getting used to a dump trailer, all that kind of stuff. And we don't have time to do that today,
Yeah.
but because we went down the rabbit hole. But hey,
Couldn't help
thought it
it.
turned out great. didn't
Yeah.
you?
Yeah.
So
So the biggest thing, I would say, technology is here. And I know we got the cheater, our little tattletale boxes on all the trucks now. That stuff is owned by Amazon. And guess who was the first group that they tested it out on?
you.
Really?
Amazon Freight. And so I was highly entertained when I heard everybody complaining about it out here. It's like, dude, we even had the inward-facing camera at Amazon. And the only thing we're missing here, which I would highly recommend that we do here, is the Driver Eye app is the sister to the Tattletale box, and you can see your score.
I
We're
think
doing
we
that.
have, yeah.
Are we going to do it?
We're doing
we
it
have
now.
it right now, yeah.
Is it out?
Yep.
Yeah.
Do the
You get with
drivers have
safety.
it?
Yes.
Okay.
Not all of them. They're
You have
as
to
we're-
call safety and get a login, I
Right.
think.
Yep, as we're doing these meetings, we
I've
talk
got
about.
it.
There you go.
I mean, all I got to do is get a new password, and I can log
Yeah.
back in.
We talked about it on last week's episode
Okay.
about the app and how you can see how you rank
Yeah.
amongst everybody in the company.
Yeah.
So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, that's
Yeah,
already out.
I'd be rolling with about a 1,100, 1,200 score, thinking I am somebody, and then I go into Atlanta, and
Tank.
oh, it would tank immediately because everybody's cutting you off, and Atlanta's just a zoo trying to
Yeah.
push a truck through that area. So
Brad, I appreciate you sitting in with us,
Yeah,
man.
absolutely.
You
It's
have an
been great.
interesting, very interesting story. You ought to be proud of it too.
So-
It's
well, I've been blessed.
you can sure tell some good ones. I'm
Yeah.
never boring around you. I can tell already. You got some good stories.
Every airline, every pilot has their story.
Yeah.
So,
I think it's very interesting. So
yeah, we always used to have big watches too. So.
yeah.
Yeah, and when you flew with a military guy, because they were always dogfighting, and you shoot the watch, so they're flying the dogfight with the watch. So you're a fighter pilot? I'd cover my watch immediately because it's like, you're not shooting my watch, man.
The pilot jokes.
Yeah. Oh yeah. There's plenty of them. So
All right. Well, thanks. Hey, I just want to say thanks to all our listeners. You guys are awesome. Didn't know which direction this was going to go today, but I felt like it went great. I just love these kind of stories. I wanted to, know our owner operators out there. I mean, you've got a retired airline pilot that might have flown you around and he's out there in a truck driving on the interstate today, and it's in good hands. And we got a lot of people like that here at Oakley, a lot of fantastic owner-operators, and we're going to get to some of those stories. I love hearing them, and we're going to find some more guys like this. So appreciate everybody listening to us. We'll talk to you next week.